Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Good evening and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, and it's a blessing to be here with you guys this evening. I hope you join us on our late night national town hall conversation. Give me a call, 833-482-5337-833-4-Valdez. And, of course, I think the big story today, of course, besides the AI summit, we're going to jump into this AI summit and learn all about all these new AI things, right? Because this is relatively new for everybody and scaring everything out of a lot of people. But I want to talk about this story that seems to get better every day. What a great summer I'm having with this. And it's the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She's a lieutenant colonel, by the way, in the United States Army National Guard, and former congresswoman, as you know. We've had her on the program. It was very, very good talking to her. And I want to say that this is good. I think it's good. This is way better than the president saying, well, I think we've got him dead to rights. I think, of course, everybody wants to hear from El Trompitos and Aldous Magnus. But hearing it from someone in their official capacity forces the media to cover the story, right? Now, of course, they're going to cover Trump. They cover everything he says. But their specialty is trying to discredit him, saying that it's sour grapes, that it's this, that it's that. She's making this an official work product of her office. So kudos to her for doing that. Now, have we ever seen a criminal referral with any legs, with any meat, other than to lock up a Republican? No, I don't think I have. But it doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing this anyway. Right? That's like saying, hey, look, I don't know if I'm going to win. Well, you still fight, right? You still fight because you have to have, you got to be in the game. And Tulsi Gabbard today confirming with reporters that she has indeed referred President Barack Obama for a criminal investigation. Listen to this.
Do you believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior?
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment. There are multiple pieces of evidence and intelligence that confirm that fact.
Again, Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, making it extraordinarily clear what she thinks. Now, this puts a lot of people in question. Now, President Obama, of course, responding, saying, no, if Marco Rubio was on that committee and James Clapper and John Brennan, the CIA director at the time, and the former DNI during the Obama years, they were all signing off on this. And guess what? James Clapper, he's on the record on CNN saying, No, it was President Obama that made us do that. Listen to this.
For President Obama, we might not have done the intelligence community assessment that we did that set off a whole sequence of events which are still unfolding today. President Obama is responsible for that, and it was he who tasked us to do that intelligence community assessment in the first place.
But for President Obama asking us and tasking us with this intelligence community assessment that set off a chain of events. That, my friends, is General James Clapper. He was the Director of National Intelligence for the aforementioned President Barack Obama. And why does any of this stuff matter? Well, again, quite simply, and you guys know this, right? I mean, I remember listening to the great one, Mark Levin, put this stuff together, just looking at news reports. And because he was chief of staff during the Reagan years over at the Department of Justice, he knew very well how the media operated. He knew very well when they gave these reports that they were citing leaked documents, usually leaked from someone who wanted it to be leaked. right? It wasn't just on background or some sort of source that the reporters were working. These are usually coordinated hit jobs. And because Mark knew that, he knew this doesn't smell right. And he coined the term, this is a soft coup, a soft overthrow of the government. And that's exactly what it was. They weren't armed. It wasn't an insurrection. This was using the power that you have of your office as Director of National Intelligence, as Director of the CIA, as President of the United States, right? John Brennan, James Clapper, Barack Obama, using their power to sabotage the incoming administration and then candidate Trump, right? During the campaign and the transition into his time in office. This is unheard of that you get a pen register to spy on people working in his campaign. Right? That I don't know if anybody remembers all that stuff. I'm pretty sure you do. You guys are a pretty smart audience. I remember when they brought Don Jr. in, right? Don Jr., who, in effect, other than his podcast, which I don't even think he had at that time, this guy is the executive vice president of his family's company, the Trump Organization. He's a real estate guy. They brought him in and they did all sorts of things. 30 hours of questioning. 30 hours. The son of the president. I mean, this was going on right in the very beginning of Trump's. Just imagine, you get this big job, people vote for you, you're in, and the next thing you know, your son is in the hot seat, being asked questions only because he's your son. I think sometimes that gets lost on people. Absolutely insane. Anyway, so that's the story there. Now you've got these guys, trying to provide some cover, it seems, while not trying to directly throw anybody under the bus. But according to Tulsi Gabbard, the CIA director, John Brennan, suppressed this intel that Russia had compromising material on Hillary back in 2016. And that Russian President Vladimir Putin had compromising material on then presidential candidate Clinton, which is how this whole thing kind of sparked off, and it just continued and spiraled. And this is, again, I don't know what comes of it. I don't believe anybody goes to jail. I do believe people should be held accountable, and I do believe that this was a soft coup, as the Great One put it. By the way, I want to give a shout-out to the Great One. I know he gave me a shout-out on the radio, letting everybody know he's coming on this program. Mark Levin, the Great One, the author of On Power, to talk about his new book. We're going to do that in about a week or so, but maybe 2 weeks. But I just wanted to thank him for the shout-out, and for piecing this together back 6-7 years ago. Because now that it's official, right, there's official records. This is coming out of the government that Barack Obama was complicit in this. Now, this is their allegation, and should they decide to do something legally, it would be a criminal proceeding, right? Because this could be considered seditious behavior. However, I would imagine that very quickly, Obama's legal team would say, no, not so fast. The president has a wide range of powers and immunities, and he can do this, that, and the third. And he was doing this in the best interest of the country. In fact, he thought it was a national security concern. And despite the memo, they wanted to make sure. And he told them not to do it, but they went ahead and did it anyway. And now that everybody's gone, what are you going to do? Fire those guys? You can't fire them ex post facto. So, no harm, no foul, right? It's water under the bridge. Take care, brush your hair, bye-bye. That's what I think they're going to try and do. And that's why it's so important for Tulsi Gabbard to put out this work product, because that will go into the National Archives, and that will become part of the public record and the historical record moving forward. And sometimes that's what you need, right? You need to correct the record. You need to put that out there. And I'm not saying that that's all we need to do. I'm just saying I don't believe that there's a pathway to really prosecute them criminally. I don't. But again, I could be wrong, and I hope I am. I hope you guys call here, you line up, and you keep Mr. Matos really busy on the phones tonight saying, hey, Rich, you were so wrong. You were so wrong. Look at Obama, how nice he looks, how handsome in that orange jumpsuit with those leg shackles, just like they put those leg irons on Peter Navarro. Listen, I would love for that to happen. I don't see it happening. And why? Because Trump himself said it yesterday. He didn't want to go after Hillary Clinton because she was the wife of a former president. You think he wants to go after a former president? I think his remarks yesterday from the Oval Office, no joke, no satire, honestly speaking, calling President Obama out for what he did was serious. That is a black eye on the world stage for President Obama, and that makes history. And that's something he's got to dig his way out of, right? Trump's not saying, oh, sour grapes. Trump won. This is his third election. He's not upset because he didn't win. He won. He's upset because they tried to sabotage him when he won fair and square the first time. Anyway, amigos, we're going to continue our conversation with you all, the American people. Of course, 833-482-5337 is the phone number. We're also going to have some discussion about what is going on with AI. Today was the big AI summit, and we're going to talk about that and so much more when we return.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Whether we like it or not, we're suddenly engaged in a fast-paced competition to build and define this groundbreaking technology that will determine so much about the future of civilization itself, because of the genius and creativity of Silicon Valley. And it is incredible genius. Without question, the most brilliant place anywhere on earth. America is the country that started the AI race. And as President of the United States, I'm here today to declare that America is going to win it. We're going to work hard. We're going to win it.
We are going to win it. That is El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States, Donald J. Trump, at the AI summit today at the White House. And President Trump making it very clear, I think, that the United States is going to be the leader in artificial intelligence, looking to help as many U.S. companies as possible move very quickly and get things going. This, again, summit held at the White House earlier today. And I want to get some reaction to that and what this means overall for America and, you know, both economically, technologically, and in terms of our output, right? Because there's going to be a lot that comes from this. Some people have concerns that we'll never have jobs again. Others are thinking, man, we're going to have so many jobs. So we're going to put a lot of that stuff to rest with our guest. He knows exactly what's going on. He wrote the book on this stuff. He's the author of Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. Mark Beckman is CEO of DMA United, and he is a adjunct professor at NYU. My alma mater, Go Violets. Mark Beckman, welcome, sir.
Rich, good evening. It's great to be back. It's good to hear your voice again.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So talk to us about your thoughts on today's summit. And you know, we have time. You don't have to rush through it. We'll come back and discuss a little more about President Trump's remarks and get your reaction to that as well. But I'm curious to know, you know, overall your thought on today's summit and I guess charting the path moving forward.
Yeah, look, I'm a tech optimist. I'm very excited about emerging technologies, including both artificial intelligence as well as cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. I bring them together, Rich, because they both work together. But I have to tell you that President Trump, in a very short period of time, in just 6 months, is following through with the standard that he set literally the day after the inauguration. On January 21st, he assembled at the White House with leaders in tech, people like Masa Son, Larry Ellison, and Sam Altman. They were all there. And these guys announced on January 21st that they were going to put over $500 billion into data centers, building data centers to support artificial intelligence in the United States of America on January 21st, and that set the tone. Soon thereafter, there was an executive order showing that American ingenuity will be unlocked in AI with the president's vision. And sure enough, here we are, not even 6 months later, right? And he's still pounding away, and he's showing that we are going to deregulate, innovate, and be competitive all over the world. In fact, he signed 3 new executive orders today to help realize that vision. So I'm very excited. It was great to see all of the tech leaders in the AI space assembled with members of the government. I love that private sector, public sector partnership and vision. The best minds in the world assembled today in Washington, D.C., surrounding our president.
Mark Beckman, let's talk about these. We have about 2.5 minutes here, but I want to get your sense of these executive orders that were signed today. What is the initial impact of pick one and run with it?
Sure. Well, there are 3 components. Like I said, three executive orders, but the first one is, or the one that I'd like to highlight first, really, sure, is what he's doing to fast track innovation. Really, something that you highlighted when you introduced me. This idea of unlocking American ingenuity by fast tracking permits and the permit process so that we can build new AI data centers and related infrastructure across the United States. It's critical. It's also going to boost the energy part of the ecosystem. Remember, to run these data centers, a tremendous amount of energy is required, and we'll see that through coal, fossil fuels, nuclear, and in some cases, a little bit of the renewable piece of it will be in play as well. So to me, the most exciting part is this idea of fast-tracking permits so that businesses can start expanding and addressing this growing demand of technology, which really serves as the underpinning across all of these business sectors in years to come.
Folks, we're on with Mark Beckman. He is, again, the author of the book, Some Future Day, How AI, Artificial Intelligence, is Going to Change Everything. And we're going to talk about that, about his book. We're also going to talk about the impact that today's summit and the trajectory that the Trump administration is charting forward for artificial intelligence in our marketplace and what that really means. Because I think a lot of people, Mark Beckman, are concerned going back and going forth with, will I have a job in the future? Is AI going to replace my job? Are they going to get a audio sample of Rich Valdez's voice, for example, and create an AI chatbot that would say, well, how would Rich Valdez respond to today's news, and create a talk show around that? Now, that may not be possible today, but that doesn't mean that the technology is not available today to make it happen at some point in the future. And I know they do that in other things, and I'm making a rudimentary example here, but I know a lot of people are very concerned about losing jobs because of AI. I tend to be a little more optimistic about it because I look at it like the invention of the conveyor belt, right, and the assembly line with Ford. So we don't have time to get your full response here, but I want to remind people, again, Mark Beckman is our guest. His book is Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. And I want to pick up there, your reaction to, is this going to create jobs or is this going to take jobs when we return? Folks, we're coming right back with Mark Beckman, CEO of DMA United and adjunct professor over at NYU. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
What do we have in front of me today? That's about as good as it comes. Up here, the brain power, the greatest power of them all, the brain power. Well, I'm thrilled to be here with so many tech leaders and luminaries as we take historic action to reassert the future which belongs to America, always has belonged to America. We just lost sight of it on occasion. And I just want to start by stating that we've just concluded our big trade deal with Japan and numerous other countries in addition, as you know. But on the Japan deal, because it was literally just signed, letter was just signed, it gives us a sort of signing bonus. So I'll bring it into sports talk, a signing bonus. Like you have signing bonuses too, I understand. Getting a lot of money, 100 million, that's not bad. But that's not as good as the signing bonus we got. We got a $550 billion signing bonus for the country. And we had the tariff at 25%. As you know, we had a tariff at 25%. And these are great people that we negotiated with, but we agreed to reduce it to 15 based on the fact that Japan has agreed for the first time ever to open up its country to trade so that all of our American businesses and business geniuses, including many in this room, can go out and do business openly and freely in Japan, a very rich and prosperous and profitable and wonderful country, frankly. And we will pay a zero tariff as we do business in Japan. So we're paying zero, they're paying 15. We're getting $550 billion. And to be exact, it's 90% of that, but we control the whole lot of it. And it's really been great. And they're very happy, and their stock market went up, and our stock market went up, and that's supposed to be the way it is. Ours went way up, and theirs went up.
That again, President Trump talking about some of the wins at today's AI summit, signing some executive orders and giving the country some kudos about a trade deal. And with respect to artificial intelligence, I want to continue our discussion with our guest, Mark Beckman, CEO of DMA United and adjunct professor at NYU. He's the author of the book, Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. And Mark Beckman, I posited a question before we went to the break, and that was this AI that President Trump is talking about, and this revolution, this leading the way, it seems to me, on the race to be the champion of AI globally. Will this add more jobs for Americans? Will it take away jobs? Should people be scared of this? What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's a very relevant and important issue. I believe that ultimately artificial intelligence will create more jobs, will impact our country in a positive way with job growth. However, it's undeniable, entirely foreseeable, that certain sectors will be wiped out. Most people think that the blue-collar sectors will be wiped out. And I do believe that's going to happen with a combination of both AI and robotics. But what most people are surprised about, and I write this in my book, is that white-collar jobs, think in terms of lawyers, architects, advertisers, accountants, they're going to get wiped out too in a big way. After all, generative AI is doing math. So the reality is that we're going to see a different world in years to come. And similar to what happened with the automotive industry, you might have heard this before, Rich, when automobiles came, people were frightened to get away from horse and buggy. But of course, with the advent of that new technology, all different types of jobs came to fruition, came to light. And I believe that's going to happen here too. And I'd be remiss, I'm sure you have a very intelligent and curious audience. I happen to be an audience member myself. And for those of you who are interested, beginners, but interested in learning how you can incorporate artificial intelligence into your career to optimize your job, maybe even find a way to financially benefit from this new technology, my book provides beginners, not techies, beginners with the tools that they could use today to incorporate into their career to create more value. It's a very good starting point. So I just want to share that with the audience today, because my book went to #1 in the AI category and sold out on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I think it's because people are using it as a tool to figure out how to create new value in their careers.
Outstanding. And I hope it has something to do with your ability to create effective advertising campaigns, being that DMA United is an advertising agency. Now, you just mentioned, Mark Beckman, that you believe that your industry, your field, your role might be outdone by AI. How do you see that happening?
Well, I think it's happening already, and we could look at what Mark Zuckerberg, for example, is doing with Facebook. The first piece of it is he's using machine learning, artificial intelligence, to allow for brands, entrepreneurs, people that are using paid advertising in social media, small e-com, S-com, to intellectually establish media buying plans. So if you're a small business owner and you haven't tried launching an S-com campaign on Instagram or Facebook, I would highly recommend you do this. And it's AI that's powering the ability to target very specific segments of audiences in very specific geographical regions. That's the first piece of it. But now what Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, has announced is, in addition to that feature, he's going to provide, through the use of AI, individuals who use his service with the ability to design full campaigns. And what artificial intelligence does then for entrepreneurs is that it levels the playing field. It gives them an efficiency of both time and saving money to create photorealistic campaigns with great catchy slogans, even videos, for very, very little money. And that's going to radically change the advertising industry, and it's going to challenge small companies like mine. We have big clients. You mentioned some of them: Pepsi, the NBA, Nelson Mandela, Karl Lagerfeld, Warner Brothers. But it's going to challenge agencies like mine to think differently so that we could beat the machines. There will, in fact, be this machine versus man type of competition that we'll see in law, in architecture, in accounting, in advertising, and beyond.
Wow. Really well put. And it's good to see that you're ahead of the curve. Folks, get a copy of the book. It's summertime. Catch up on your summertime reading. Get a copy for yourself and one for a friend. The book is called Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. The author, Mark Beckman. Sir, I want to thank you for eloquently explaining what's going on, taking the time to walk us through it, and for being with us tonight.
It's such an honor to be on your show. I truly have been a big fan of yours for a long time. Congratulations with all of your success, and thank you so much for having me.
You bet, brother. Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless. And amigos, we come back with your thoughts, your calls, and opinions straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
You're educating America, and you are giving us an opportunity to speak freely. That's why I love this station, and I love your show.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our late-night national town hall conversation with you all, we the people. Our phone number, of course, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to encourage you to call in tonight. Every night is a good night to call in, but I want to encourage you to call in tonight because tonight on the phones, we've got on loan to us from the Mark Levin Show, Christian, the new Mr. Call Screener, who replaced me, by the way. He is on our program tonight helping out because Mr. Hinton had to take care of something else. So if you want to get in his ear, yell at him, make fun of him over the phone, feel free, 833-4-VALDEZ. And last night I played a clip. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from my old stomping grounds, Brooklyn, New York. And she says that very candidly, quite an admission that I want more illegal immigrants in my district because it's good for redistricting. When they have more people, they can get more money, and they can ultimately add more congressional seats, which would mean more power. Listen to this.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We have a diaspora that can absorb a significant number of these migrants. And when I hear colleagues talk about, the doors of the inn being closed, no room in the inn, I'm saying, I need more people in my district, but just for redistricting purposes. And those members could clearly fit here.
Those members clearly fit here for redistricting purposes. I couldn't believe she said the quiet part out loud, but she did. I want to get your thoughts on that, on Obama, on the Russia hoax, and everything else. Let's go to Tampa, Florida, listening online, richvaldez.com. Let's go to Eduardo. Go for it, my man.
Yeah, Rich, thank you for playing that clip on Representative Clark. Yeah, I mean, today I heard Governor Pritchard, don't come into my town and harass our citizens. Karen Bass making up a story about an ICE arrest. It's pretty ridiculous. The media can't wait to see Abrigo Garcia freed. They're still on that stick. Mm-hmm. That's an old stick. They can't get over it. It's ridiculous.
I find it so odd, right, that it's so true. The Democrats truly have never met a criminal or a lawbreaker that they just don't fall in love with. I don't understand why, but this is how they do it, Eduardo. And I would presume it's because they can do it without incident, right? For example, if you have you or me or many of the people that listen to this program as a voter, they're going to listen, and if they don't like something, they're going to say, hold on a second, I don't like that. For example, right, a lot of people have called into this show in the last week or two saying, look, I like Trump. I voted for Trump 3 times. I'll vote for him again. But I want to see the Epstein stuff. I think he's making a mistake, right? People are not afraid to disagree with someone that is doing a tremendous job if they don't think it's aligned with their interests, right? People have the right to speak up. But when you're living in the shadows because you've come to this country to take work that whatever work you can get, right? You're willing to undercut people for work because you're just trying to survive. And you don't have legal status. You don't have a work permit. Well, guess what? You're going to do whatever the politicians tell you to do, right? Because you don't want to get kicked out of the country. And that's what they're doing. They're exploiting illegal immigrants. They're exploiting the fact that people are coming to this country and crossing what the UN, and I don't credit the UN too often, but they labeled the not the Darien Gap, but the whole Rio Grande River as the most dangerous border crossing on the planet. People came here, people sent their kids because they couldn't come, because they were being trafficked, because they owed money, all sorts of different horrific reasons. And the Democrats, I don't know a single Republican that's saying, hey, we've got to make sure we keep that border open. I haven't seen one yet. I think they'd get kicked out of the Republican Party if they did say that. And that's probably a good thing, right? Because you want to stand for law and order. You want to stand for doing the right thing by people. And sadly, this is what we get here. Democrats are now openly admitting, Yvette Clark, Congresswoman Yvette Clark, shame on you for saying I'll take the illegal immigrants in my district. And you know what? Shame on your mayor as well, Eric Adams, who hears a congresswoman say these things. And does Eric Adams come out and say, I condemn Congresswoman Yvette Clark? He doesn't come out and say that, does he? He doesn't condemn anybody. He doesn't give a damn. He will say whatever he's got to say and sell whatever snake oil he's got to sell in order to get to what he's got to do. And even if he has to put on a MAGA hat to get it done. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him, and I can't throw him very far. So, Eduardo, I think you're right on that one. I appreciate the call, brother. Folks, we're coming right back. The rest of your calls, Charleston, South Carolina, Idaho, and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. Let's go to Robert calling us from Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Robert, you're on with Rich Valdez. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. It's nice to talk to you again. I just wanted to let you know that, the Soviet Union and Russia, its successor, the Russian Federated Soviet Socialist Republic, didn't really have that much influence here in the United States because there weren't that many Russians spread around the country, just a certain part of Brooklyn. But other than that, spread around the country, not really. I had old friends who were from the former Soviet Union, but very few, and came over many years. Didn't come recently, except around 1975. Then a few of them got out again. But it still wasn't that many. and there was no way that they could possibly even begun to swing a revolution. They have a separate shop in Moscow for people who are going to go overseas, like to America. They have where they get special clothing that looks like Western clothing. Otherwise, they'd stand there like a sore thumb. And they're just not smooth. They're not like for example, Romans or something like that, who led the world for a couple of thousand years, where they're very smooth and they know how to handle people. Like the Swiss are very good at that. The French are very good at that. But the Russians are not.
But Robert, let me ask you, just as a devil's advocate here, these guys have been really good at their spy work for years, and to be a good spy, you have to be able to blend in, no?
No, they get other people to do that. They're not good at blending in. That's their problem. Stalin was like a gangster. He was very klutzy, and he actually took huge losses in order to accomplish what he did. Millions of people died, and they're defending Stalingrad. Stalingrad should have fell. They should have pulled that right behind the way far from Moscow, way into the hinterlands, and then said, "Okay, Buster Brown, come and get us." That's what he should have done.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it. Very animated as always, very informative. And shout out to WTMA, South Carolina in the building. Let's go a little bit further over in the country. Let's go to Idaho, Boise, Idaho to be exact. One of our regulars, Pablito. Go right ahead, sir.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich.
You bet, brother.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed hearing as long of a speech that I could hear from Trump about the positive things that came out of the AI today. I think we've got our backs kind of up against the wall, and so does the Chinese. They're playing ping pong with that. And, I think whoever's most diligent with it is going to end up on top. And
right. This is the new arms race, the new space race, AI.
Right. Yeah. And I think Trump's got it on the right tact. The man knows how to sail. He's going to sail us into victory, and he's one of a kind. And even if you hated him 2 months ago, it'd be hard not to say the guy's really pulling his weight and doing what he can possibly do for this country and myself.
Yeah, listen, great point, Paul. I think you hit the nail on the head, which you usually do. You must listen to some good radio because you're a pretty smart guy. Paul, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Good to hear from you. And always thanks for giving us a call, supporting the show. And, I want to just reiterate, this hour we've talked a lot about Tulsi Gabbard and her blowing the lid off this thing, and good. And I'm glad that they're doing that. I hope we can have the best outcome possible there. I don't know for certain that anybody's going to jail. If I was a betting man, I would bet on nobody goes anywhere. But that's not me throwing shade. That's me saying, look, I'm trying to temper the expectations of those that are listening. And I do that because I've got friends and I've got family that have been texting me for years. This is it. It's finally going down. They don't get hungry. They get excited. They almost salivate when they see things like this because they think that we're actually going to see justice being served on the deep state. And I think we do see justice and we do see things corrected. It just isn't always going to be in the orange jumpsuit, public perp walk type of way. I hope I'm wrong. Anyway, amigos, we're going to continue our conversations in the next hour. If this is the end of the road on your radio station with me, then hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez. Everybody, I'll be right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, keeping you company here on the late night radio dial. Our phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation afternoon, if you're one of our listeners in Hawaii, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And the drama and saga continue with El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, and his DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, making it very clear that this continues. Right now, Tulsi Gabbard today was making it clear that she has the receipts. She knows exactly what's going on, where the bodies are buried, all that. And this is a very, very interesting time. A little while ago, she made some additional comments, but I want to play for you something that I saw that I want you to hear. Listen to number 25. This is Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on, I guess it was at the White House press briefing room. Listen to this.
I believe that any of this new information implicates former President Obama in criminal behavior.
We have referred and will continue to refer all of these documents to the Department of Justice and the FBI to investigate the criminal implications of this.
For even former President Obama?
Correct. The evidence that we have found and that we have released directly point to President Obama leading the manufacturing of this intelligence assessment.
I mean, this is some serious stuff. Now, she went on. I'm going to go back to the clip, but she fired back on President Obama. Check this out.
We will be releasing further documents tomorrow that will refute that statement. And I would go back and point to, and we will be pulling a whole host of statements that were made by the Obama administration, by Hillary Clinton, by senior Democrat officials, by their friends in the media that state over and over again after this January 2017 manufactured intelligence document was created, that repeat the narrative. And I'm looking at my notes here. New York Times says Russian hackers acted to aid Trump in the election. Obama's CIA Director John Brennan says there is strong consensus among us to support the CIA claim Russian hackers aided Donald Trump's election. Hillary Clinton said, I would be president if not for the Russian hackers supporting Donald Trump. So there is a vast body of evidence and intelligence that debunks and refutes this statement you've just read and others coming from some of the Democrat leaders in Congress today.
Again, that's Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, doubling down on her allegations that Obama administration officials politicized the intel and then laid the groundwork for a years-long soft coup on the government, in particular against President Donald Trump after he won the 2016 election. Gabbard was on Fox News tonight, and she said, quote, there were deep state obstacles to releasing the information that she had about the Trump-Russia collusion investigation, and that some people within the intelligence community didn't want it to see, quote, the light of day. And she goes on, there are a lot of deep state actors here within Washington, Gabbard said. President Trump wants us to find the truth. I want to find the truth. The American people deserve the truth, and they deserve accountability, which is why I'm really glad to see that Attorney General Pam Bondi and the Department of Justice announced the creation of a strike force team today. Gabbard continued, listen to this, specifically to get after all of the intelligence and evidence that we've gathered. We've got more coming out to determine the path forward to bring the accountability. Gabbard commented in a post on Twitter that former President Barack Obama and key members of his national security team, including then CIA Director John Brennan and then DNI James Clapper, made up a narrative. They fabricated a narrative about Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election in order to subvert Trump's presidency. This is a big deal. Now, Gabbard released more than 100 declassified documents on the intelligence community's assessment, both before and after the 2016 election, and specifically towards this consensus that they were talking about potential Russian influence, saying this: for months preceding the 2016 election, the intelligence community shared a consensus view. Russia lacked the intent and capability to hack U.S. elections, she wrote on Twitter. But weeks after President Trump's historic 2016 win, defeating Hillary Clinton, everything changed. And in the rest of that social media thread, you've got Gabbard alleging that former President Obama directed the intelligence community to create a new intelligence assessment that detailed Russian election meddling, even though it would contradict multiple intelligence assessments that were released over the past several months, indicating that that was not the case. How about that? Final quote here. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence the 2016 election but did not successfully manipulate any votes. Right? Now, this is coming from Obama's spokesperson. These findings were affirmed in a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee, led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. And we played that for you yesterday, the audio of that. So what happens, right? What happens? Well, now you've got all the former Obama people out there that are pushing in the same direction, right? You got Ned Price, remember him, former Obama National Security Council official, pushing back on Tulsi Gabbard's claims in a Fox News op-ed that came out today, arguing that Gabbard is trying to overturn established facts with conspiratorial fiction. He said that Tulsi Gabbard conflated the terms hack and influence. A 2020 bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee report backed by then Senator Marco Rubio found that Russia did not hack the election infrastructure, such as changing votes or manipulating voting machines. It did, however, conclude that the Russian government worked to undermine confidence in U.S. democratic institutions and voting processes. Rubio, now the Secretary of State, said in a 2020 press release that the committee's investigation did not find evidence of then-candidate Trump or his campaign colluding with the Russian government. This gets better by the minute, right? What the committee did find, however, is very troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, he wrote, while taking aim at the FBI for relying on the now widely criticized Steele dossier. The committee found that Russian government engaged in aggressive campaign interference. A multifaceted effort to influence or attempt to influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. And it goes on and on and on. So again, they're arguing over hacking versus meddling and interference. Gabbard, who sent this criminal referral to the Department of Justice over the declassified documents, told Fox News host Jesse Waters that she'll continue pursuing accountability and she's going to continue to bring these receipts. So I'm game. I'm game to see what's going on. Again, I appreciate the transparency. I appreciate the fighting spirit. I appreciate the administration taking a forward-thinking, a forward-acting position on this. I love all of it. You have to be on offense, not defense. But at the same time, I'm not going to be upset and stomp my feet and fold my arms if nobody goes to jail. I'm not, because this is what it's all about, right? Daylight is the best disinfectant. Anyway, straight ahead, we're going to continue this conversation. Your thoughts, your calls, and reactions are coming up as well I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Russia says that it is open to peace with Ukraine, but achieving its goals remains a priority. That's according to a Kremlin spokesperson on Sunday. He said it days after President Trump gave Moscow a 50-day deadline to agree to a ceasefire or face tougher sanctions. Russian officials have repeatedly rejected accusations from Ukraine and its Western partners of stalling peace talks. We do have Hal Kempfer still here.
All right, so Russia says they're open to peace talks with Ukraine. But will they do anything about it? I want to get to the bottom of that with our guest. He is the president of Project Sentinel, and you know him as Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, Rich, always great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Now, amigos,
Sure.
Tony Shaffer was the national security advisor for Trump's 2020 campaign, and he knows a thing or two about intelligence, having served himself and done some spy work when nobody was looking. Lieutenant Colonel Shaffer, tell us about this report that I'm listening to, because I feel like I hear this every third week. I hear Russia's open to this. Of course, yeah, we're looking in the war. And then they go and they bomb something in Kiev.
Well, they've stated up front what their intention is. They want to basically meet their objectives, and their objective is to hold the 4 provinces they currently have and Crimea, and that's what they want. I do believe that at this point Putin would settle for that. They set out in February a 12-point peace proposal, and it basically freezes the current lines. It allows for some level of, I think, voting, like a referendum on, do those provinces want to stay with Russians? That would not be fair, but that's what they're saying. And this is opposed to the 24-point Keith Kellogg NATO plan, which calls for a immediate ceasefire with no conditions, which the Russians won't accept. So that's where we're at. And the bottom line is there's no military solution on our side. And I'll be blunt. Right now, the Russians are producing 1,000 drones a day, Rich, 1,000 a day. Ukraine can't keep up. Even with new Patriots, which are being proposed to be sent there, it'll be literally too late to have much of an effect over the summer. All the Abrams tanks we gave them have been defeated. They're gone, except for 4. We've asked the Australians to step up and send some, but it's going to take some time to get the tanks across the planet. So those won't have an effect within the next 50 days either. So there's a very difficult choice. Do we continue to see the Ukrainians fight a losing battle, which is what's happening? As we speak, the Russians are continuing to gain ground slowly on all the fronts, all the points of conflict on the ground. And the only potential lever that President Trump has is the economy, the economic issues. And those primarily are focused on energy. And by the way, most sanctions don't work. The Europeans just approved the 18th round of sanctions, and the Russians are going to shrug them off. So the only thing that Putin's going to worry about is he can get to his energy, the oil exports. And the funny thing is the Europeans are the ones undermining it the most. Yes, they're sending oil to Russia to China, to India, and places like that. But Europeans can't live without oil. They buy Russian oil through third markets, basically pretending they're not buying Russian oil. They know they are.
Right,
so
trying to play the game and circumvent sanctions and whatnot.
Yeah, but they can't. Any country, any modern country, Rich, cannot live without petroleum. It is what it is. And so at this point, President Trump, I think, has to do something to lower the price of oil so it becomes less than profitable for Russia to continue. I see that as the only real lever at this point.
Amigos, we're on with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer discussing this stuff with Russia. Now, LT, before we continue, I want to continue the conversation in the next segment regarding your thoughts on this Clapper, Brennan, Gabbard, Obama. We'll get into that. But to round things off here in the next 2 or 3 minutes, I want to get your take on the win. I see this as a big win, right? Trump campaigned on this in 2015, saying that the United States is paying way more than its fair share with NATO. Right. Now we have NATO stepping their game up. We've got. It seems like they're happy to pay more, right? To go to 5%. I think it's a good thing. Is there something I'm missing?
They'll never do 5%. They'll be lucky to do 2%, but that's still better. The overall direction is better. But again, Rich, it's a bit a day late, dollar short. It's like, okay, why haven't they been doing that on their own based on the bellicose language they keep using of Russia? You would think they'd act in their own interest and step it up themselves. And it's been disappointing to see that the Biden administration never once pushed the Europeans to do the right thing. We always offer to pay everything without regard to the consequences of our own defense. And so President Trump rightfully has said, hey, no more free ride. It's going to take some time, but I think you're going to see the Europeans step up finally, probably to 2%. I don't think most countries would ever get to 5%. I don't think they could afford to, but it is an improvement. We're going in the right direction, but it's going to take some time to correct the errors of the past, especially of the Obama and Biden administrations to have not held NATO accountable.
Now, with respect to NATO being the broker of the weapons we're selling to Ukraine,
right.
I think this is a good idea, and I think it's something we should have done a long time ago. What's your thought?
Right. Absolutely. You're correct. The Germans are the ones stepping up right now saying, we'll buy the weapons and we'll send them. And that's fine. The Europeans should all be thinking in those terms, the French as well. But we should not be the ones basically holding the entire burden. And by the way that the Obama and Biden administrations have handled this, Biden kind of created the conditions for, the Russians to continue to advance. Under Obama, they lost Crimea. And then Biden comes in and then actually says, well, we don't care if you just take a little bit. He actually says this, and the Russians act on it. So, it's great the Europeans are stepping up, but they've got to be more aggressive and invested in their own interests. We should not be the ones telling Europe that you're in danger and you need to do something to invest in your own defense. Just saying.
Amigos, we're on with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer, retired from the United States Army, and the president of Project Sentinel. When we return, we're going to continue the conversation to get his thoughts on this intelligence stuff, something he knows a ton about. So, Lieutenant Colonel Shaffer, stick with me. Folks, we're coming right back. Of course, the phone number, if you want to weigh in on this stuff, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Keep it locked right here. It's Valdez coming right back with Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The president yesterday, you've inferred that the former president helped lead a coup. Based on what you now see, do you believe President Obama is guilty of treason?
I'm leaving the criminal charges to the Department of Justice. I am not an attorney, but as I've said previously, when you look at the intent behind creating a fake manufactured intelligence document that directly contradicts multiple assessments that were created by the intelligence community, the expressed intent and what followed afterward can only be described as a years-long coup and a treasonous conspiracy against the American people, our republic, and an attempt to undermine President Trump's administration.
That, of course, is DNI Tulsi Gabbard. Our guest is the None other, right? I'm going to call him infamous, Tony Shaffer, president of Project Sentinel, lieutenant colonel, retired. Sir, when you hear this talk and those in the media and me, I'm also of the opinion that you can't lock up the former president for doing these things. Maybe I'm wrong, but what are your thoughts on this situation overall? Is this about correcting the record and the historical account, or is this about actually putting Obama in jail?
No, I think it's about accountability. And full disclosure, I know Tulsi. I was one of her advisors when she was a member of Congress, and I do respect her work, and I agree with what she's doing. President Obama engaged in an attempt to lead a coup against the president. I was on the transition team, the 2016 transition team. I saw firsthand the chaos it created. I was trying to get to President Trump, and recommend that he direct the Pentagon, who I'd already pre-approved. I got the Pentagon's buy-in to do a peer review, because Pentagon has similar authorities to the FBI on foreign counterintelligence, to do a peer review of their operations, just do an audit. And you would not believe the opposition, Rich, I had from Trump's folks. At one point, I finally got to John Kelly, and I told him both Director of CIA Mike Pompeo and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Joe Dunford had approved my concept to do the review. And get this is what John Kelly told me. He says, Tony, I will never allow you to talk to the president because all you're going to do is inflame his instincts, unquote. So my concern is, okay, I think there were members of President Trump's own organization, own cabinet were in on what was going on. Because, Rich, you tell me, why would you not want an intelligence officer with my background, be it infamous or not, one of the advisors to his cabinet, because I was advising Mike Pompeo and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, coming to the chief of staff of the White House saying, hey, there's something wrong here. We need to look at it. And all he said is, no, you're just going to inflame President Trump's instincts. Well, apparently, Rich, maybe President Trump's instincts should have been inflamed, just saying.
Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with you at all. I think, if things are like that are going on, you've got to do that. I just feel that there is, and you know this better than me, so I'm going to try and put this into words, and if you can add to it, you do.
Sure.
There is, my experience in government has taught me that there is a overlying, not underlying, overlying principle of pomp, of circumstance, of not getting your hands dirty, of not doing things the way Trump kind of does things, right? That bull in a china shop approach, which I think I find endearing, and I think many Americans do as well. And it's that, we don't do that, we're better than you, we, thumbing our nose at people type of attitude that is what allows the deep state to continue doing what they do. Now, President Trump himself, even just yesterday, he said, look, I punted on prosecuting Hillary Clinton because she's an ex-first lady. Got it. Understood. And he's mentioned this during the campaign. He says, but now the gloves are off, so to speak. Is it too little, too late? Or is there still an ability to bring some sort of criminal action against then President Obama?
The answer is yeah. And the Constitution actually provides that remedy, and people won't like it, but it's called impeachment. You can still be impeached, Rich,
after the fact,
after you leave office. Yeah. So while they may not be able to charge him criminally, it becomes a political issue that is litigatable. Is that a word?
Yeah.
You can litigate it. You can litigate it in front of Congress. So this is where Mike Johnson comes into it, because I think what DOJ is going to do, and I don't know this. I have not talked to Pam or Cash or any of the folks. This is what I would do if I were them. I would do the full investigation. I would get everything lined up as if you're going to prosecute Obama and turn it over to Congress. Like, here you go. You guys figure this out. We can't do it, but you have, through impeachment, the power to do it. And that way, the DOJ has done its job. It's done the investigations. I think at least 6 people I can think of off the top of my head should go to jail for sedition at minimum. And that would be John Brennan, Jim Clapper, James Comey, Peter Strzok, and a handful of others, probably Susan Rice as well. And I think those folks are materially involved to the point of where they knew they were accepting illegal orders. That's one of the things about the military, Rich. We get told, we get lectured on understanding the difference between legitimate orders and orders you cannot accept.
Tony Shaffer, I have a clip of General James Clapper on CNN. And it's a short clip, but attempting, it seems, to create a little distance between him and the president on this. Listen to this.
For President Obama, we might not have done the intelligence community assessment that we did that set off a whole sequence of events which are still unfolding today. President Obama is responsible for that, and it was he who tasked us to do that intelligence community assessment in the first place.
Tony Shaffer, that's, again, retired General James Clapper, Clapper, ex-DNI. What do you think? Is he trying to throw some shade to his former boss?
Absolutely. I know Jim Clapper. He is a politician first and an intelligence officer second. And if he were actually an honorable man, he would have said to the president, "We can't do this. This is not legitimate." And he didn't. He's saying, "Oh, well, remember, Rich, the I followed orders defense didn't work at Nuremberg during World War II. It's not going to work here." So.
Wow, Tony Shaffer, very, very eye-opening. I appreciate your insight because I think
Sure.
I'm in agreement with you. I think this is the layup that we're seeing is get the public's attention as if we're going to do a criminal prosecution. We may not be able to pull one of those off, but the early signal yesterday from the Speaker of the House saying, "Sure, I'm ready to bring Obama in.
Yeah,
ready to go." Now, this is more of a political question, but do you think we see that happen? Will the former president walk into Congress and participate in a hearing?
Well, I think Obama will try to be above it. He always tries to pretend that he doesn't make these awful decisions. And just look at the statement his team made, Rich. It was a non-denial denial. It's like they called it outrageous and this, that, and the other, but they didn't deny the allegation. So I think that if Congress has the cojones, they should do it. And if Obama shows up, great. I think and I said this back in 2017, that the road would lead back to Obama, and it does. And I think since they went after President Trump, turnabout is fair play. In this case, unlike President Trump, Barack Obama, I believe, is guilty of what he's being accused of.
Yeah, right. I was explaining this to my daughter at lunch, and I was saying, she's like, "How is that different from what happened to Trump?" I said, "Real different. Trump didn't really break any laws. They made something illegal just to go after him. What Obama did already was illegal. He did violate the rules, and really quite an offense to our own country." Lieutenant Colonel, thank you always for your insight and for your expertise on this stuff. Let everybody know how they can keep up to speed with you and follow your work.
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter, on X. I'm going to be doing subscriptions here soon on that, so people can follow me and get special content. And, of course, London Center, I still run that, and they can primarily go to Project Sentinel, though, projectsentinel.com, and check out what we're doing. So, Rich, I always enjoy our conversations. Thank you, brother, for having me on.
Me too. Hope to see you soon. God bless.
God bless.
All right. And, amigos, we continue with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions. What do you think? Do you agree with Tony Shaffer, former lieutenant colonel? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? I want to know what you think about all of this stuff. Does Obama set foot to give testimony on this in Capitol Hill? Does he just dodge it? You let me know. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. And you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez. We're kicking off Open Phones across America. Open Phone America is a time-honored tradition on this program where, of course, my predecessor, Larry King, started that back in 1978. And, of course, the late, great Jim Bohannon carried that on for 3 decades as well. And you and I get to do it right here this evening, keeping that tradition alive. 833-4-VALDEZ. Before I get to your calls, I want you to hear an exchange that occurred in the White House press briefing room today. Kelly O'Donnell from NBC News telling Caroline Leavitt that because of a Supreme Court decision and the fact that Trump had appointed a special prosecutor during his Trump 1.0 term, and no charges were filed against Clapper, no charges were filed against Brennan, no charges were filed against Obama at that time, that the Supreme Court precedent is that you can't prosecute a president for the time that they were a sitting president and their actions in office. So, and again, that was a victory Trump won. So listen to this, number 5.
What is the accountability that you would like to see if this current president is the one who brought the case to the Supreme Court and Chief Justice Roberts made clear in his opinion that a sitting president's responsibilities in office cannot lead to prosecution, immunity? So what is it the President Trump wants regarding President Obama, given that fact? And the special counsel at the time, Durham, when that Supreme Court matter was not in effect, could have charged anyone and did not. So on those 2 points, how do you respond?
Look, the president has made it clear that he wanted these documents to be declassified. He wanted the American people to see the truth, and now he wants those who perpetuated these lies and this scandal to be held accountable. As for what accountability looks like, as the director said, it's in the Department of Justice's hands, and we trust them to move this ball forward.
Well, you would agree President Obama cannot be charged based on that immunity.
Again, I'll leave that to the Department of Justice.
That, again, Caroline Leavitt responding to those allegations. Or to that question about the allegations made by Tulsi Gabbard. Can there be a criminal prosecution? I'm going with there can't, and that we're likely going into the direction of trying to get Obama in front of one of the committees. Will it happen? I don't believe it will. If you look at, history, I don't know how many times that's happened. I guess I'll look it up and get back to you. But I just don't see Barack Obama, buttoning his top button there and with that Obama swagger walking into Capitol Hill, into one of the chambers there and saying, yep, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I just don't see it happening. You let me know. What do you think? I want to go to your phone calls. Let's go to Joe calling us from Salem, Arkansas, KSAR on the line. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, Rich, I don't disagree with you that much, but I have to regarding no convictions, no jail time, and so on. I know you worked around all that, those heathen politicians in Jersey and New York, but you got too used to that. Now, the Holy Spirit is moving across the land in the hearts of men, and things are about to change. Our Egyptian bondage since Jamestown is approaching 430 years. God gives 2 witnesses, first in Egypt, now in modern-day Egypt. Now, 2037 is it. He's going to cut the day short, right? So he's going to cause a lot of surprises, and I think this is the beginning of it. Tulsi Gabbard, I knew if she got a post that she would be a champion, and she is. And I'd say, now I've been involved in lawsuits with public officials and politicians in my life, and we learned to stay away from official capacity. And with Strzok and Lisa Page and all them, what they pulled, and they've got evidence of that, they operated definitely in a personal capacity, and I think there's enough there that Tulsi uncovered that they can be sued and win this time in their personal capacity instead of official. And, it's just... I think it's going to happen, so I disagree with you there that this time, that it won't. So there's a lot. Man, she's got a lot of good stuff. So I wish she'd go on to the other issues, the Kennedy file and Olstein files.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, Joe. Who do you think ends up going to jail?
Well, I'm not going to say necessarily jail, but they can get a conviction and they can get a pardon if necessary. I don't think Trump would do that. I hope he wouldn't do that.
Right.
But they need to pay some type of a price and a judgment that people need to wake up. You know, you've had these people in there, and they're getting by with it, and they're badly influencing.
What do you think if it's proven that this really did start with President Obama saying, let's screw these guys up. Let's screw up this incoming administration. Let's handicap them and kneecap them right from the beginning so they can't do anything, and we're going to use the intelligence agencies to do it. And let's just say they're able to pull off a conviction on an impeachment here, or at least just an impeachment without a Senate conviction, like they did to Trump twice. Do you think that's a reality for Obama, an ex post facto impeachment?
I wouldn't let them off easy with an impeachment ex post facto after the fact. I would go for the conspiracy, the obstruction of justice. I mean, there's a list of crimes. If I had a federal statute book in front of me, we could name a lot of crimes there, and all pre-planned, pre-thought out, and a lot of people in the conspiracy. You know, you've got the FBI, you've got everybody. So
well,
I mean,
let's see what happens. I hope that you're right, brother. From your lips to God's ears. Joe in Salem, Arkansas, KSAR. Amigos, I take a pause right here. We come right back. Turtle Island, Connecticut, and the rest of your calls don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Amigos, we continue with your phone calls, your thoughts, your reactions. 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. I am Rich Valdez, and I want to go to another one, Tucayo. That's how we call people in Spanish with the same name. Richard is in Turtle Island, Connecticut, listening online, streaming the show. Go right ahead, Richard.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Number one, we really need to pray for Tulsi Gabbard for her protection, also the president and the rest of the cabinet. I guess my questions I got a few of them, if you don't mind. I'm kind of new to your show and listening.
Cool. Well, we're going to have about 45 seconds, so give me the best one first.
Do you have access to anyone in the White House? Do you have access, like, to Pete Hegseth?
Probably about as much as you do.
Oh, boy, that ain't much. Well, I'm going to try to call you again sometime. I don't know if you could take me over to the next hour.
No, but you can, instead of using pointless words, say something.
Well, what do these people get pardoned for? Like, we know what Hunter Biden, basically, what he's getting pardoned for, but all the rest
what they get
of them,
pardoned for is usually all crimes past, present, and future, you know? They basically try to cover all of their bases. Are you saying that these people are going to get pardoned if they get in trouble in this go-round?
Yeah, in the future. I don't see how
it's a possibility, which is part of the reason why the political class is generally immune. And this is why I always argue we're not going to see anybody go to jail. They know what they're doing. They know there's going to be a Democrat eventually, even if they have to sit on that conviction for a little bit. That's going to hopefully, sign those pardons. And now that they know, there might be another auto pen scenario in the future, might work out really well for them. Anyway, Richard, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Good to hear from you. Shout out to Turtle Bay, and thanks for listening to the show. And amigos, we continue with the rest of your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and everything else straight ahead. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. All right, Rich Valdez coming right back. Keep it locked right here.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, back for another hour. Welcome to the program, live and national on this beautiful Wednesday evening, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez, and we'll be getting into your calls, open phones across America in a little bit. I want to start off with some of the bigger stories of the day and some of the crazy stories. I saw some crazy stories today. I'm going to give you one. I won't get into it, but just as a tease here, listen to this one. This is a pretty crazy story here. Your colon has a sixth sense. Oh, boy. Nope, that's not it, though. This one. I'm a sex fest worker. This is what really goes on inside the UK's Swingathon. How about that? A swingers tent festival. Man, I don't know if I'm going to get into that one either, but these stories are nuts. This is the one I want to talk about. I was dead for 2 minutes, and I didn't want to leave. What I saw on the other side was beyond belief. I'm going to get into that one. That's in the New York Post. And fascinating story, in my opinion. My brother, the one that likes QAnon, by the way, lamentably was stabbed when I was a little kid. And I was probably about 5 years old. 6, and I remember it like yesterday. I saw the whole play-by-play. It was shocking, and he lost a lot of blood, and he actually they lost him and had to shock him back to life in the ambulance and then again at the hospital. And he had a whole like outer body experience. It was really something. Maybe I'll get into that later, but I want to know from you guys, when you do call in, have you had something like that? Has somebody in your family had something like that? Definitely want to get into that, but I want to start with some of the big story of today, which is the AI conference in the White House. Big AI conference in the White House. President Trump just unleashing the plan for AI in America. And this is, I think, a good thing for America, obviously. President Trump making the announcement earlier today, both about tariffs and how we're doing well with tariffs, how we're doing well on so many different fronts, and how we're going to lead the charge with AI. I've got a quick clip on that. Listen to this.
Trump set to lay out his vision for AI later today. His action plan is expected to focus on 3 major pillars. First, innovation. Second, infrastructure. And third, national security. And it will include a few executive orders. Joining us right now to talk about the president's strategy is Teresa Payton. She is Fortalice Solutions CEO and the former White House Chief Information Officer for President George W. Bush. Teresa, first of all, thanks for being here. What do you expect to hear today? How would you put it in terms of what this means for AI overall?
Yeah, what I expect to hear today is a conversation. It may include, we need to do this to beat China to the finish line. It may also include some conversations around deregulation. I was just in a meeting last week where a great presentation happened. Goldman Sachs presented on the energy demands that we have to support AI, quantum computing, cryptocurrency. And it's the equivalent of building these new data centers that, if you put it in terms that we all kind of can think of, it would be the equivalent of launching 50 rockets at the same time to the moon, just to power one data center that we're going to need to support these ambitious plans. And then the last thing is I do hope and expect that we will talk about retraining, upskilling America's workforce for the new jobs that will be created. But hopefully we're going to be starting yesterday on that, because we already see where some jobs are getting replaced.
Again, that is Teresa Payton. She was the White House Chief Information Officer in the Executive Office of the President from 2006 to 2008. So that would be during the presidency of George W. Bush. And I think she's right on a couple of accounts. I think, obviously, this was a report that played before the actual summit happened. But big deal, very big deal. I think I could say with certainty the United States is leading the way with AI. And I think this is a fantastic thing. It's a fantastic thing to see the United States doing what they're doing with AI, doing what they're doing with cryptocurrency. The United States is leading again, right? Getting Europe to fall in line and move up their payment schedule 2.5, some saying 5, or at least 5 in the future, working their way up to 5. These are all wins for the president, ending multiple wars, and all of this in about 6 months' time, right? Fantastic, right? Really fantastic trajectory so far. Now, what I want to know is, do we continue this speed and do we maintain this dominance, right? The way we became energy dominant in Trump 1.0. Do we achieve energy dominance again? Do we achieve AI dominance, economic dominance? Do we become the dominant player in every area? I'm going to venture to say yes, I think we do, but it's not going to come easily. And with that, we're also dealing with a bunch of other stuff, right? Trump still has time to make sure that the team is addressing the Epstein stuff, addressing the ongoing lawfare against him, the ouster of Alina Habba, as well as addressing this coup, the soft coup against the United States led by Barack Obama, right? Political dirt that's now on full display, getting aired out, the dirty laundry. I mean, I got to tell you, Trump is firing on every cylinder. So what's next, right? What's next? And are we able to maintain all of this? Well, we're going to have some conversation about that, as well as, what's going on domestically, right? Things have calmed down in California a little bit, right? We don't see so much going on anymore in Los Angeles, but there's still plenty going on over there. You've still got the governor over there crying a bunch. So I want to have some discussion with somebody who's running for Congress in California's 49th district. Imagine that, 49 congressional districts in California. Yeah, I get it's a big state, but wow, man, that's a lot. Anyway, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about some of the news of the day, because I think we need to dig into a few things. I love the fact that we have such a forward-thinking, action-taking administration. But I want to hear from you all, we the people, the listeners of this wonderful program, or I should say the wonderful listeners of this program, on your thoughts on everything we're discussing this evening. Of course, the phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And let me know, what do you think is going on? Plus, after the guest, we're going to get into open phones across America, and we're going to be discussing this article in the New York Post about a woman who claims to have died and come back, and she didn't want to come back because it was so nice being dead. We're going to get into that in a moment. Keep it locked right here on Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice.
That, again, is the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. And, again, this is a big story we're covering for you today. And this is, I think, for some people, it's music to their ears. For others, they're a little more skeptical, like me. It's more like, all right, we've heard this before, but what really happens? I want to bring in our guest. She's a former candidate for the U.S. House in California in the 49th District, founder and CEO of Vetcomm. Kate Monroe, welcome back.
I'm glad to be here.
Kate, when you hear the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, talk about this stuff, what's your initial reaction there?
Well, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was a 2621. I was an intelligence analyst. And when this was going on back then, I said, wow, this is some utter bull crap. There's no way any of that is true. This is completely manufactured. Every single person I knew in the intelligence community that was watching the news said, is there any accountability, literally any integrity whatsoever left in the fabric of our government or our media? And the answer obviously is no, there is not. I guess my feeling is if we're going to do something about all the messing around, maybe if there's going to be some finding out, that would be great. But if this is another, there's a list and there's this list and these people and blah, and we don't do anything about it, you're basically telling the American people that you can't do anything wrong. But these crazy oligarchs, this shadow government, they can do whatever they want. So my feeling as a Marine Corps vet is it's time to make sure people find out that when you try to undermine our national security and our president, you should be held accountable. I think Trump said today maybe that it was treasonous. Well, what are we going to do about it? That's my feeling. What are we going to do?
Yeah, Kate Monroe, listen, I'm with you. I remember when this was unfolding, my blood was boiling. Here we are years later, and not a whole lot has happened. There's nothing that I've heard today that I didn't hear 6 or 7 years ago, other than now they're saying there's documents that prove it. But I don't think the issue was there was a lack of proof 6 or 7 years ago. I think there was just a lack of a political will to actually bring these things. And then fast forward a couple of years, you've got President Trump winning a landmark case on presidential immunity in the Supreme Court when they tried to lock him up on the Mar-a-Lago raid stuff, the documents case. Yep. And I thought it was a big win for America, saying that a president, in order to be effective as a president, isn't going to be held liable for the decisions that or the actions that they take when they're in office. But that, of course, applies to Obama as well in this situation. So it doesn't seem like anything that happens here is going to, cause Obama to be taken out of anywhere in handcuffs, let alone the fact that we had the Durham investigation and a Trump-appointed person that was special counsel and came up saying, look, I'm not prosecuting anybody, here's what I found, but it wasn't anything that we're going to prosecute. So, I mean, that ship sailed. And that's why I feel like all this tough talk in the middle of July, or the end of July, I should say, to me comes as, a way to keep people engaged as we go into August. I'm thinking, what are we going to hear about in August? UFOs? I don't know. Am I being too skeptical?
No, you're not being too skeptical. And I have said many times, it's very difficult. I remember growing up in the 80s as a kid, the news was on when the news was on. The news was not on 24 hours a day. It didn't need to be manufactured out of clear, thin air. And I think with the news cycle, Americans are like, what should I be mad about today? Like there was the floods, there's hurricanes, there's like the fires here, there's homeless, drugs, lawlessness, an open border, the Epstein list, the Diddy list, the stuff with Obama. Like, what are we supposed to be mad about? How do I even have time to engage and go do anything about it? Because tomorrow something new is going to come up. And it's a shame the level that we take things to, and it's like, okay, finally we're going to get, they're going to show us some respect and do something. Certainly, no, they're not. They absolutely are not. And it's appalling to me. It's disappointing. After having served this country, you want to think that the country that you live in has more fortitude. It just doesn't. I would like to see the will of the politicians change. It's like, hey, you want change? Maybe you should have voted for somebody like me. Because I could tell you what, they wouldn't be getting away with this crap on my watch. That's probably why I didn't get in.
Yeah, I hear you on that one. Folks, we're on with Kate Monroe, founder and CEO of Vetcomm. Former candidate for the House of Representatives in California's 49th District. And today, President Trump had this AI summit at the White House. And I'm wondering, you're the CEO of this organization. What, I guess, benefit or drawback does AI pose for veterans re-entering the workplace?
Well, AI is tricky. You know, it's like there was a whole generation of people that didn't really grow up doing much on a computer, and they got sort of set aside. Then it was like, okay, now it's, you know, software, it's this, it's that, it's the internet, it's all these things. And now it's like, okay, well, you have, you know, this huge opening in cybersecurity with AI. You've got quantum coming, and I don't know that, like my Generation X, we got to get going, guys. If we're going to stay at the forefront of this, you know, to give you an example of how AI is being used in the veteran space, the little 400 character box that veterans fill out to tell the VA that they want to get rated, it's AI that reads that box and decides if they even get an appointment. So AI is doing a lot of work that really human beings should still be doing. And I just think that as good as it is, and of course I use ChatGPT to help clean up things and do writing, it's a little scary what's going on with ChatGPT. So I think we need to watch it, monitor it, and if you're going to be in a field that uses it, you better get going and get a certification and take it seriously.
Yeah, I hear that. And Kate Monroe, with respect to AI, do you see any upside where you know, vets coming back who, you know, have a technical background could excel with something like that, you know, programming AI to help it, you know, facilitate more of whatever, right? Because, I mean, AI can be used in so many ways. Like you said, they're reviewing applications. In some instances, it's, you know, reviewing your spelling errors. There's so many capabilities with it. Do you see an upside?
I do definitely see an upside. We're actually considering, we're a skill bridge company where active duty service members can actually come and work at our company while they're still active duty. And we've been thinking about thoughtfully putting together a cybersecurity education program with AI, with quantum, so that these guys transitioning have those skills, can go to the workforce and make good money when they get out. So we're way ahead of the curve.
Excellent. Kate Monroe, stick with me. I want to come back and discuss a little bit of what's going on in California now that they've recalled the troops and Gavin Newsom's still running his mouth. Keep it locked right here, folks. We're coming right back with Kate Monroe, CEO of Vetcomm, and me, Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I'm a taxpayer. I don't like to see my money wasted like this. There's no fiscal conservatives left. They proved that in the big, beautiful betrayal. But this is comedy. Donald Trump waxing on about the Fed chair today and cost overruns on a new building. How about the hundreds of millions of dollars he's burned just to try to sear in your mind that he's some tough guy because he didn't get enough hugs from his parents? I'm a taxpayer.
That is Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, saying, I'm a taxpayer. And he seems to be very righteously indignant here. He's very angry with President Trump all the time. I'm really curious to hear what Kate Monroe has to say about Gavin Newsom because, you know, that's your governor, not mine. Kate Monroe.
Oh my! You can keep him. Sorry, I was over here throwing up in my mouth, listening to that witchcraft. Okay, I went down to the border with razor wire. And then he went down and stood next to my good work. I tried to get the Border Patrol to take it down. They told him absolutely not because it's blocking 500 people a day. I have walked every homeless encampment. I've been to the Tenderloin. I've been to Skid Row. I've been to Oceanside. I've been to San Diego. It was me that exposed our nasty homeless problem here in San Diego. We have homeless, drugs, lawlessness, fires. You spent billions of dollars trying to, of the taxpayer dollars, of your dollars, Gavin, to get rid of homelessness, only to have more homelessness. The grift, the homeless industrial complex that you created here in this state, you are ridiculous. I don't know what one of your little interns wrote that disgusting, childish speech, but as a California resident, I can tell you, I pray to God that people have enough of a lens to see through this bullcrap so this man gets nowhere near the White House. This is the scariest oligarch of a family that lives in this nation. Please, God, keep them away from any more government positions. It's abhorrent. I hate these people. I don't even hate people. I hate him.
Well, tell us how you really feel, Kate Monroe. Now,
No, that was
it's funny.
10%. That was 10% of how I really feel.
And I'm glad you gave us the truth there, because some people try to clean it up. And I got to tell you, I don't know Gavin Newsom. Never met him. But from what I've seen and the way he moves, it really is a concern for me, because he seems like a very affable person. If you're not paying attention, you might say, man, what a nice guy. And this is a popular
so is the
trait.
devil.
Right. You're not
very
lying.
beguiling.
Totally. I live in Jersey, and when my parents were still alive, I live in a small town now that has a 4th of July parade. It's like one of the second oldest in the country. And the governor of New Jersey decided to march in the parade in my hometown here. And he was walking by and said hello to my mother, shook my dad's hand. They had their chairs set up outside the house. And I turned around, I came back, he was in the driveway 6, 7, 10 minutes talking to my mom and my dad. And I was like, what is going on here? Why are we talking to Phil Murphy? This was some years ago when he first got elected. But I was like, hold on. I went over and I said, we don't do this. We don't do this. and my mother was like, oh, but he was very nice. And that reminds me of Gavin Newsom, right? And even more charming, because Phil Murphy doesn't even have good hair like that. Gavin Newsom has, the slick back do, and he's got that whole persona about him that some people seem to like. And I'm not in favor of hating the guy, but he just seems like such a shady individual. How does he pull it off?
Well, I mean, he's Nancy Pelosi's nephew. These people have been in office forever. They're like vampires. Like, you can't get rid of these people. I mean, it's because they prop them up. Like, in our state, people are so wealthy, they don't even understand the plight of the average person that lives in California. You got 10 people living in a house just to make it, and this guy's squawking about, oh, I'm a taxpayer. Well, you want to think about the taxpayers or the business owners or all the families that live in all these communities. You're certainly not thinking about all the homeless veterans. You have the largest instance of homeless veterans. You spent $1 million per homeless veteran to try to build housing in LA, failed at doing that. I don't understand how blind we are that we keep voting for these people. I would like to say that they're feckless. This is malicious neglect. It is disgusting. We have to wake up. I pray that the next governor is a law and order governor, because as a business owner here, I can tell you I didn't too much appreciate the 15 or 20 times I had to get people from breaking into my building and sleeping on our deck because the homelessness is rampant here.
Yeah, it's been. I remember I did a big story on that with I forget who it was, but he was really good on this, and the statistics blew me away. I think California has 50% of America's homeless people, or 48 or 49.
But we just try to move them all around. I mean, do you know, this is some craziness for you. When China came to San Francisco, I walk up there with a guy named Tom Wolf who used to be homeless. He was there the day that they put these people on buses, the homeless people, told them they were dropping them off in San Diego. They turned down the 8 toward Arizona and dropped them off on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere with no food or water or transportation. This is how you clean up things in the state of California. You just literally pretend like they don't exist. You give all your buddies huge contracts to build, transitionary housing. God forbid we actually fix people. And then they go inside and die, and then you put another person in there, and then you flip it and turn it into a condo.
Wow.
It's absolutely disgusting. When I first started walking in San Diego, there was 2,000 people in a 4-block radius. It looked like Djibouti. It was very scary. I have had machetes pulled on me, knives pulled on me, guns pulled on me when I do this work. It's not safe.
Wow. Kate Monroe, I want you to tell everybody how they can keep up to speed with the amazing work that you're doing at Vetcomm and how they can follow you.
They can follow me. All of my handles are the same on social media. It's Kate Monroe, CEO. And if you're a veteran and you are not collecting your money from the VA, you are owed up to $4,000 a month for the rest of your life. Visit us at Vetcomm, VETCOMM.us. We're the flat best, least expensive in the business, and this Marine Corps vet will see to it that you get what you're owed.
Wow. Well, fantastic, folks. Check her out. Check them out. Kate Monroe, I want to thank you for being here. Thanks for having that fiery spirit and doing what you do.
Well, you invoke the word of Gavin Newsom, you will piss me right off.
Love that. Kate Monroe, God bless you, and thanks again.
God bless you.
You bet. And amigos, we come back with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and that crazy story I was telling you about. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
You have given us the voice of hope. You give us hope, and we thank you so much for that. You make things seem brighter.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, I want to get into this story that I told you about before. Every now and again, I like to get into this weird, crazy stories in the news. And here's one of those weird but true stories in the New York Post. Listen to this. I was dead for 2 minutes, and I didn't want to leave. What I saw on the other side was beyond belief. This woman said she was pronounced dead for 2 minutes and revealed the shocking discovery of what she saw on the other side. Nicole Muse was lifeless in a hospital bed, officially pronounced dead for 2 whole minutes, when she supposedly felt pulled from her body and entered a tunnel of light where she was met by blue-skinned beings. She's 49 years old. She's an artist, and she was in the hospital after losing her baby. I'm so sorry to hear that. And was rushed into emergency surgery. But due to complications, she started to go in and out of consciousness. She found herself passing through a tunnel of blue and white light, she said, not on a beam, but a corridor that felt alive. Muse, who's from Greece, said that the light had a temperature and a tone to it, almost like music made of water. And she entered a glowing space with luminous colors like silver, soft violets, and deep radiant blues. I didn't feel frightened at all. I felt like I was being called home, she said. The chamber was vast, larger than any earthly structure, and everything pulsed ever so gently, like a heartbeat. And then she saw them. She was talking about being greeted by these blue-skinned beings with human faces similar to the characters in Avatar. 2 towering beings seated on a marble throne, shimmering with energy. Their eyes were large and the color of indigo, filled with kindness and recognition, she said. They looked human but had gentle gills on their cheeks. She remembers seeing their fish-like tails rather than legs covered in scales. They were both male and female, intertwined, and didn't speak in words, but I understood everything they had to tell me, she said. She also said that she didn't understand their language, but these avatar-like figures allegedly made her feel at home and telepathically communicated with her that life is actually an illusion and we start to actually live it when we die. That might be the only part I can agree with. I don't think life is an illusion, but I think our time on Earth is very temporal, and eternity begins at our last breath. Muse also said that they told her she wasn't meant to have children, and rather she was given the gift to teach people about the other side. Here's a quote from her. She said, "I felt more known than I had ever felt in my entire life. I didn't want to leave," she said. "I understood this place, this feeling, and I truly believe it was the original home from which I had come from." She learned that death is not an end, but it's a return to your actual life. Very interesting stuff here. After the minute that she was pronounced dead, the 2 minutes, She was zapped back into her body when her husband, Christos, who's 65 years old, tried to speak to her, and she communicated in a high-pitched tone and in an unfamiliar language, according to them. He said it sounded like dolphin clicks. It continued for minutes, which left everyone around us stunned, but I couldn't stop it. She said she was coming, it was coming through her, not from her. Her senses were heightened. She could hear the emotion in people's voices, and she returned completely different from this experience, almost as if she were born again. So I'm curious to know, anybody that's listening out there, your thoughts on this. Have you had a near-death experience? I want to know your thoughts about the intelligence community stuff that's going on, your thoughts on the NATO situation as well. Plenty to discuss tonight. Of course, the phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I used to write stories like this off, but I'll tell you, one of my brothers got into a fight and was stabbed like in front of our house. We lived on Ocean Avenue in Brooklyn. And I remember hearing a large commotion in my hallway, and it was my other brother and some of his friends, and they'd run up the stairs to grab a cane, my grandmother's cane. My grandmother had several canes, like aluminum canes, that she kept outside the front door of our apartment in this little vestibule. And when she'd go out, she would take one with her. And she had a few of them. And I remember a few of his friends going up there, and she had like 3 or 4 of them. And they grabbed these canes, and they ran down the stairs, but really loud. And I looked out the window, and I saw them going and beating on this guy in the middle of the street, right on the double yellow lines. And he was the person that stabbed my brother. And I didn't see my brother, and I didn't know what was going on. I pieced this together later. So I started going downstairs like a nosy little 6-year-old. And my brother, who was running down the stairs, was the one that was babysitting me. So I get down to the bottom flight of stairs, and I see my other brother, who was out, the one that got stabbed, and I see him, and he's laying in a pool of blood at the bottom of the stairs. And he looks at me, and he waves at me like to go away. And he's like, Richie, go back upstairs, lock the door. So I ran back upstairs, and I saw that he was bleeding. So I called 911, and my mother had just stepped out. She came back to an absolute nightmare. But all of that to say, my brother had this out-of-body experience that he told us all about, after the fact. And I remember my family just reeling from all of this. The doctors telling him, look, he's lucky to be alive. He lost a lot of blood. It hit a major artery in his left leg. There's some significant nerve damage. It's very likely that he'll never run again. He may be able to walk again, but even that is iffy because of the damage. And fast forward, if you met my brother, you'd think he's normal. But I mean, like, never having been attacked like that. And he can run, he can jog, he can do lots of things. I mean, his knees are a little shot now, but he's also, 10 years older than me. So, I say, to God be the glory. I'm so happy that he's okay. But that was something I never would have believed had I not seen it. And, when he tells me about these spiritual and out-of-body type of things, I can't help but be curious, because I've never had one like that. And I'm not asking for one necessarily, but I think people that have them are special, right? They have this special ability that perhaps I don't have. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your thoughts on Obama, Tulsi Gabbard, Clapper, and the rest of the Russia hoax fiasco, and so much more. Give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, to the phones we go. Let's go to Mike, Sunset Beach, North Carolina, WRNN. Mike, you're on with Rich Valdez. Quickly, go right ahead.
Hey, thank you, Rich. I appreciate your call, taking my call.
Yes,
very quickly, I've been in the intelligence community 18 years. I'm not there anymore. A couple of things that I'm going to try to wrap this up in a nutshell that I think people need to understand and I'm not hearing. The clip you just played a minute ago by James Clapper is absolutely crucial. It may be the shortest clip as you described, but the refusal of illegal orders is absolutely the key. A president, when he is briefed, I worked both on the NSA side and the CIA side for 11 years. The president can always have plausible deniability. He can always say, well, this is what they briefed me, but I didn't tell them to do anything. I just went with the intelligence. Now, that all flies up until Clapper's response, because if Clapper is going to say, well, we knew, and if not for Obama, as you played in the clip, he knows that's an illegal order. Now, a president can always say he's got plausible deniability. There is nothing in the Constitution that a foreign president can't be brought in and up on charges, so that you could just forget that, or anybody who's thinking that. But if there is enough evidence and you get someone to come testify, now, of course, you get into the horrible area of trying to find a judge in D.C. and a jury, and then, that whole mess. But I think what people need to understand is a president can claim plausible deniability. And if you remember, the Supreme Court went back on this whole thing with the Trump. If a president acts within his powers, it's constitutional. And it was handed back to the lower court to decide, okay, well, what is within the president's powers? It was never really decided. So Obama could say, well, listen, this is what my intelligence people told me. I said, look into it. Now you're going to have to prove that they gave him bad intelligence. Even if you prove that, then Obama can always say, well, listen, I didn't tell him to do anything on Trump. But the one thing, what's being said is what's not being said. And at any time, Obama could have ordered, and he even made a public statement, that he has seen the media surrounding this about Trump, and he's ordering any and all intel to cease and stop, but he didn't. He let the media run with it. I mean, I believe Obama planted this. I am a big Trump guy, and I have seen both sides of this. But this all starts with Obama. And this goes back to one last point I wanted to make when I said about the judge. I've been trying to get on your show and before, but as far as judges go, this is why the 17th Amendment, everybody's screaming about, term limits. Well, term limits throw out to go with the bed. The Senate confirms judges. It used to be before the 17th Amendment passed, that seat, that Chamber of Congress, was by appointment from the states. And the states would appoint them. So this way we didn't have.
And we've gone so far from that. I'm sorry to cut you off, Mike, but the show's over. Excellent conversation. Call back and let's continue the conversation. I want to give a shout out to Brad, Bowling Green, Kentucky, WKCT. You're right about Obama on that one. And George, shout out to George in Chicago, Illinois, WLS. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.